Okay, let's make a start. Go ahead and launch Microsoft Visual Studio. And now the version I'm using is the community version. It's free to download. It's version 2013. You may well be using 2012 or even 2010 and possibly even an earlier version. For what we're going to be doing here at this stage, it doesn't matter what version you're using really. Whenever you launch it, this is the sort of startup screen that you'll see. Alright, and I'll come back to that just in a second. I want to just nip over here to just a word processor, just explain a couple of things. I'll probably nip in and out of this here as we go along. So your first computer program, basically what happens in a computer program, well, it needs a place to start. Then there'll be some kind of processing, and then the program will exit. So for all the programs that we're going to be doing in the meantime, there'll be a start place. Processing is what's going to go on in the program, and whenever processing is finished, the program exits. So if I go back to Visual Studio, and we'll set it up here and we'll start our first project. So if you click on New Project, I'll explain this here just a bit. There's various different templates or starter packages that we can use. We're going to be sticking to the one for now, which is this console application. So it gives us a very, very basic window for us to write code for. Now we're going to be using the language Visual C#. So make sure at this side here you've selected C#, and here you've selected console application. Before we continue, select somewhere where you're going to save all your programming files. So in this case here, just in a temp folder, I've created a folder called programming, and I'm going to put all my programs in there. Under name, I'm going to call it first, and we'll automatically give the name first to the solution as well. So from this window, ensure you're on Visual C#, that you have a console application selected, that you've got it going to the folder that you've created, and you've given it a name, and then just click OK. Now in the background, Visual Studio is building up all the various components that it needs to run your very first program, and also insert some code. In other words, the code that is needed just to run a very basic program. I'll just zoom in on this a bit. So for now, don't worry about what you see here. I just want to have a look at this part for now. And if I just put my cursor at the end of this line, okay, so that's at the end of what's called an opening brace, right, and press enter. So it's in here that I want to start putting some code. So it's in here that I want is where the program's going to start, and whenever it finishes processing, it's going to exit. So any processing I want to do, I put it inside here. Now at the minute there's no instructions there, so if I was to run this program, it's just going to open up and close straight away again because there's nothing to do. Now how do we run a program? Well, there's a process called compiling, and then we execute. Or as nowadays, very simply, click on a start button, or we can select debug, start debugging, or you can see there F5. So the shortcut I would normally use would be F5, or we click on this. Now, at this stage it looks like nothing happened, but if I run it again, you may have quickly seen a window flashing up there and going away again. So the program ran, there was no instructions, so it closed again. So in order to get that to a stage where we can actually see something, I'm going to put in a command here, and we're using console applications. So for now, commands that we're going to give it must start with the word console, and you can see as we start typing, like a suggested list of keywords will come up. You can highlight it and press tab. If we follow that with a dot, I will give you then sub options for that. And I'm going to select from the sub options read key. And read key, as we'll discover later on, is a function. So it has open and closing brackets, and the whole thing is a statement, so it must end with a semicolon. So these are things that we'll talk about as we go along. For now, I just want to have that on so you can see a program actually running and staying on screen. So if I click on that again, I'll just bring this into view. You can see we have, well, it's just a blank window. It doesn't do anything, there's nothing up there, but the program at the moment is sitting on that console.read key, which basically means it's not going to do anything until it reads a key from the keyboard. So we put any key, or touch any key, press any key, and it goes away. And that's the program ending. So what we have at that stage there, whenever we run it, we've got a starting point, we've got some processing, which is just basically press any key to continue, and it exits. We don't have any message for the user. So just to conclude this part, I'll access another console command. I'll put my cursor just before the console.read key, and if I type console, again you can see the options coming up there. If I do console dot start typing WR, and I've got two options here, right and right line. I'll just choose right for now. Open, again that's a function, so I'll open my brackets, and I want to display a message on screen. So if I want to display a message on screen, it's in the form of a string or a sentence, so it must be enclosed inside quotes. I'll put in there, press any key to continue, followed by, let's say, a couple of dots, and I'll put a space in there just so you can see what that actually does. And again, it's a statement, so it must end in a semicolon. So if I run the program this time, I'm expecting to see a message on screen, and the screen staying there until there's a key pressed. So I click on start. Again, just drag this down into view. You can see we've got the message, press any key to continue, which came from here. We've got the three dots, and if you watch where the cursor is flashing, it's after the space. So it's on the same line, but it's after the space. Press a key, and it goes away again. Now, if I change this here, you might have remembered that the other option here was console.right line. So if I change that to right line, the only difference here now is that the cursor is on a new line. So console.right will display some text on the screen and not take a return. In other words, not move the cursor to the next line. If I use right line, it will take the cursor to another line. So in effect, it's displaying something on screen, and it's like you pressing return. So there's your very first Visual C# for Visual Studio, whatever version you're using. Simple program, your first program. Have a go at it yourself, and we'll continue from there later.